This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Know-How is brought to you by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This episode of Know-How is brought to you by Samsung SmartThings. SmartThings let you monitor, control, and secure your home from wherever you are using your smartphone. Right now, Know-How listeners get 10% off any featured SmartThings kit and free shipping in the United States when you go to smartthings.com/knowhow and use the offer code KNOWHOW at checkout. And by the Ring Video Doorbell. With the built-in HD camera and microphone, you can monitor your front door from anywhere in the world using your smartphone. It's like being home even when you're not. Right now, get $10 off the Ring Video Doorbell when you go to ring.com/knowhow.
Today on Know-How,
It's a drone special.
how to lift beer
We're going to show you some successes and some crashes.
and equip your quadcopter with a parachute.
Welcome to Know-How. It's the Twitch show where we build, bend, break, and upgrade. I'm Father Robert Ballecer.
I'm Bryan Burnett.
And for the next however many minutes it takes, we're going to show you some of the projects that we've been geeking out with so you can take them home and geek out on your own.
Can't help but notice that something is maybe not bent, but broken
No, that's how
on the set.
it came like that. That's
Was there an upgrade that happened to this that led to its inevitable death?
no, that's how it's
That's just
supposed
how
to
it
look.
came?
That's, yeah.
That's so weird that you could order a frame like that.
It's a tricopter frame.
Yeah, right.
Of course, Bryan, the reason why you're playing with a busted frame is because I busted a bunch of stuff. You may remember about a month ago, I started up a beer lifter project.
Yeah, I think I remember you came into the studio, you were very excited, and you said, Bryan, I've got a project, I don't have a lot of time, and I'm going to make it work.
Kinda, yeah, that's
Maybe.
it was the Hobby King beer lifter competition, right? And I wanted to do the 250 class, and the idea is it's really simple. How much beer or liquid can you strap to your quadcopter and have it sustain flight for 10 seconds?
Right. And to overcome the weight of, because it's pretty substantial,
It's
that
substantial.
amount
Liquid's
of
heavy.
liquid.
Yeah.
You wanted to put a drone on top of a drone.
And really just because of the joke. I like it's because it's called the
Yo-Dog drone.
Yes, the Yo-Dog drone, Yo-Dog octacopter. And so we took this. This is that 250 diatone frame that you've seen in several of our builds, both the Hobby King build and the Know-How 250.
Yeah.
Super strong, multi-function, multi-purpose, but 4 motors alone wouldn't get me up to what I wanted. I had a goal of lifting 3 kilograms, which sounded like a ton. I mean, that's way more weight than I ever put on my drone
To
before.
put it in perspective, how much does just an average build that you've done weigh?
Like the total thing with everything on it is maybe 1,000 grams.
Right,
So we're talking about 4 times as much.
But it's for a good cause.
It's for a good cause.
You weren't lifting beer in your experiment, but you could lift beer.
I could. The rules state you just needed to lift the equivalent of however many grams of beer.
With a 250 frame.
Right.
Which you pointed out in the rules diagonally didn't matter. It was only the actual like.
Exactly. Right, because I was worried. I was worried that if you put a quad on a quad, well, what's going to happen is if you go from the bottom motor to the top motor, it's actually more than 250 millimeters. But they told me it's looking down on the quadcopter from hub to hub. So, so technically, I could have stacked like 6 of these.
So they told you to go for it.
They basically told me to go for it.
Yeah, and they just wanted to see you crash and burn.
Crash and burn, and we did some of that. But let's go over some of the basics of the design here, because there actually is some very interesting engineering, some interesting science here. So we're talking about 2 of these. These are diatones. These go for about what, $17 each, along with the cage. And the reason why we wanted the cage is because I need, as you can see in this one, actually go to the overhead. As you can see, we've got these standoffs that separate the 2 quads, the 2 frames, because you can't just stack them on top of each other. There has to be something that fits them, holds them together, right? So, so the standoffs that came with the kit, that's what I used here. I also needed 8 of these. These are ready-to-fly quad 2808 Advanced Series 2300s.
These are the big boys.
These are the big boys. They will pull 295 watts of power, that is an outstanding amount of power for such a small motor on such a small craft, which is what you want, right?
Yeah. Well, absolutely. In this use case, I can't imagine trying to fly it without what'd you say, 4 kilogram load on it?
Yeah, you can't. It's unflyable because it just keeps taking off.
It's gone.
But then you also need speed controllers. And remember, my favorite have been those 30 amp ready-to-fly quad ones because they're sort of multi-purpose.
Right.
But we needed something lighter. Those 30 amps are something like 32 grams each.
Right, but they have a lot of overhead.
They have a little bit of overhead, but I needed something way lighter because 32, if I need 8 32 gram, I mean, I'm using up a quarter of my weight limit just for the ESC. So I went with these blue helis, these mini hugs. They weigh 3 grams.
So a big difference.
It's a huge difference, you know, over the course of all the ESCs.
And times that by 8.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I went with these. Now, these are 20 amp instead of 30 amp, which means I'm getting really, like, these motors at max revs on a 4S battery will pull 19.97 amps.
I noticed too, next to the quad, you have your little like graveyard.
These are parts I no longer trust because they've gone through various parts of the deconstruction process.
Is there an ESC in here that might be, I don't know?
There's one that's definitely, well, it cuts out. Thankfully, it's an octacopter, but I have one ESC that just kept shutting off. I think it was overheating and just shutting down the motor, which is bad when you're under load. But I've also got 4 of the motors in here that they've taken some, they were on the top. See, the ones on the bottom were protected.
Yeah.
Because they're inside the craft. The ones on the top, there were a couple of that kind of crashed.
Clearly, one of them took a little more damage than the others.
Huge hit, right. Now, I use the KK 2.1 controller, just like we have for our other builds, like the Know-How 250 and for the 450 class quadcopter. It's a very simple board. I didn't need anything spectacular. I just needed something that would keep it balanced. And the nice thing is, a KK will do 8 motors without any alteration. You don't need any special bus. It's just got 8 straight end outputs.
And so for the bottom, you had them rotate the propellers rotating counterclockwise, and then the top ones were clockwise?
Yeah, so that's another weird thing about running a quadcopter. I thought it would just be a quadcopter on top of a quadcopter, but the motor rotation is different. So on a regular quadcopter, like the Know-How, you run clockwise, counterclockwise, clockwise, counterclockwise.
Right.
On this, all the motors on the bottom frame are running counterclockwise. All the motors on the top frame are running clockwise.
And that balances out?
That balances out. And it works, so obviously it's good.
Okay.
Standard equipment, a bunch of bullet connectors, the XT60 connectors. I needed 2 of these batteries. Now, here's a little bit of math for you. So we already know that we are going to be stretching. We're really going to be stretching the ESCs. We're within like 0.27 amps of blowing them out.
Yeah. Okay.
But that means that I'm going to have 8 295 watt motors, which means I need 2,360 watts from the system. I don't have a battery that does that. So I actually had to get 2 of them. These are 60C discharge, so they can release all their power really, really quickly.
Right.
2200 4S batteries. Combined, it gets me almost 4,000 watts that I can push out at once.
Right. So what kind of flight time are you looking at then?
Depends how I laid them, how much I lay it down. When I was lifting the full weights, I could get with 10 seconds of flight, I would already run it down halfway.
That's perfect. That'll get it straight from the kitchen to my living room. That's all I need.
But that tells you how much power this thing is sucking down. And remember, it's the limitation here is it's 250 class. Typically, if you wanted to carry something big, heavy, you would make a bigger quadcopter because bigger motors with bigger props are far more efficient per watt spent per gram lifted.
But we are limited to the contest rules.
The contest rules, right? I could have built a bigger one, but I really kind of like this idea of trying to take the smallest class and make it lift as much as possible.
Well, something too that you pointed out that I thought was pretty clever is that you attached the load of the payload to the top frame rather than the bottom frame.
My biggest fear is because, I mean, if you look at this, the connections between the 2 quads, they're just these aluminum standoffs, right?
Right.
I was afraid that if I put all the weight down below, because remember the batteries are also strapped to the one below, the top frame would actually tear itself off.
And disappear,
Which would be bad. And because the counter-rotating torque is per frame, if it had done that, this would just start spinning out of control.
Yeah, that's a lot of torsion on those poor little stands there.
So what I did was I actually attached the, I had a system that would distribute the weight to the water being carried. And it was actually attached to the top frame. So rather than the top frame lifting off from the bottom frame, the bottom frame was actually pushing up on the top frame, which is a much more stable configuration because these standoffs will handle compression forces much more than they handle expansion forces.
Right.
Yeah. So that's the build in a nutshell, but I thought maybe now might be a good time to show you exactly what goes into it. So you can see, compare your notes to what you've built, and see if maybe you want to build a Yo Dog.
We are starting our Hobby King beer lifter with its frame. Actually, 2 frames. The same Diatone 250 frames we used on the Know-How 250 build. These are the largest allowed under the Hobby King rules for 250 class multi-rotors in the competition, and their glass fiber construction should be tough enough to handle the loads we'll be carrying. We're also using 2 sets of 6-inch props with 3-inch pitch on top of 8 ready-to-fly quads 2208-2300 kV motors. Combined with the 4S battery, each of these motors should be able to provide approximately 700 grams of lift, assuming that the props don't shatter. 8 motors pulling down 295 watts each needs a lot of power, so I picked up 2 zippy 2200 mAh 4S60C LiPo batteries. Each of these can safely provide 1954 watts of power, so 2 of them in parallel can give our craft almost 4,000 watts. It should be enough for 10 seconds of flight, assuming that it doesn't just fall apart. We're keeping the rest of the build as light as possible. A 45mm power distribution board, 8 ready-to-fly 20-amp Hug ESCs, a KK flight controller, receiver, 12 and 20-gauge silicone wire, 2mm bullet connectors, and standoffs. The build starts by cutting our motor and ESC leads down to length. We're going to be pushing a lot of power through these ESCs, and we want them on top of each arm to provide the greatest cooling possible with the minimum of wire. Mark, cut, then strip your leads. Solder 2mm bullet connectors to the end of each of your leads with the male connectors on the motor leads and the female connectors on the ESC side. Solder another set of male 2mm connectors to the power leads, insulate your connectors with heat shrink tubing, then strap your ESCs to the frame. We're doubling up on our Diatone frames, so our power distribution system is a bit more complicated than a standard KH250 build. Not only that, but with up to 160 amps being pulled through the power distribution system, 20 amps from each motor ESC, we're going to be pushing the limit of 12-gauge wire. We soldered 2mm bullets to 8 sets of positive and negative leads for the ESCs. We then used 12-gauge wire to create the connection between the power distribution board and our batteries. We also created a short lead with 24-gauge wire for the regulator that will provide power for our flight controller and receiver. With the harness complete, and after running a quick check with my multimeter to make sure that there are no shorts, it's time to assemble the frame. I'm using 12 nylon and aluminum standoffs to bolt the 2 frames together into a single X8 multi-rotor craft. I used the mounting points on the accessory shelves and the flight controller mounts to connect the top and bottom halves. After mounting the flight controller on the top half of the craft, I installed the power distribution board in line with the central standoffs. Mid-build, I decided to use a full-size KK instead of the Mini, just so that it would be easier for the camera to see the setup screens. After a quick check to make sure the electronics work and that nothing is bridged, I powered up my craft and accessed the on-screen setup for the flight controller. The KK 2.1.5 board has a setting for X8 multi-rotor copters. You can follow the rotation instructions on screen to make sure your motors are turning in the right direction. I checked rotation, flipping polarity when necessary, then finished flight controller setup by calibrating my accelerometers and zeroing my control inputs. With everything rotating properly, I calibrated my ESCs, mounted my props, then used zip ties to tidy the power and control wiring, making sure to keep everything out of the path of my propellers.
Now, in just a bit, we're going to show you whether or not I was able to meet the goal. Remember, the goal was 3 kilograms. When we first started building this, that's all I wanted. I wanted 3 kilograms.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I feel like we have a little,
look good.
We have a little foreshadowing of what may have happened.
Yeah, there may be issues, but
it's okay.
But you know, the specs say that it should lift because each of these motors at maximum thrust with the props that I chose should get me about 700 grams of thrust per motor. 8 motors, so
theoretically.
But before we get to the theoretical, let's go ahead and take a moment to thank the first sponsor for this episode of Know-How, and it's Samsung SmartThings. Now, Brian, you like the idea of a smart home, right?
I love the idea of a smart home.
Now, who doesn't? It's this idea of a home that's intelligent enough, that has enough technology, that's wired enough to actually respond to what you need rather than just doing what you tell it to do.
It's the closest thing to the Jetsons that I have seen so far. Until we get the platforms that roll you in to your house.
Right.
Yeah, this is probably the closest you'll get.
And we've been promised this. I mean, I've gone to CES for the last, what, 15 years, 20 years, and there's always this idea that, oh, next year we're going to have smart homes that will respond to your every whim.
But it only works with our stuff.
Exactly.
It doesn't work with the other guys' stuff.
And by the way, it may not even work with all of our stuff. It works with our stuff, at least this year. And it got so expensive and so ridiculous, and it was just no good. Which is why we're happy to have Samsung SmartThings as a sponsor of Know How. They understand what you want out of your smart home. Now, we live in a smart world. Your phones, your light bulbs, even your cups, they're all smart. So why isn't your house? Samsung SmartThings changes everything by connecting all of your favorite smart devices into one easy-to-use interface that lets you easily control, monitor, and secure your home from anywhere in the world from your smart devices. With SmartThings, you can let your home know that you're on the way home, so that, for example, the lights are turned on and the AC is set for the temperature that you like. It'll even unlock your door when you pull in the driveway. That's the level of customizability that you can get with SmartThings. You can program different actions to happen when you're asleep, awake, at home, or away based on time or based on the sensors. And you can get an immediate alert on your smartphone if, for example, a window is open that's not supposed to be opened, or a motion sensor is tripped, or, and this one's important, a water detector gets set off because you've got excess moisture in your basement. With no contracts, no monthly fees, or messy installations, you just have to worry about setting up your smart home the way you want it. That's exactly what SmartThings lets you do. That's exactly what Samsung enables. Now, right now, SmartThings is offering our audience 10% off any featured SmartThings kit and free shipping in the United States when you go to smartthings.com/knowhow and use the offer code KNOWHOW. Make your home a more intelligent place with Samsung SmartThings at smartthings.com/knowhow. That's smartthings.com/knowhow and use the offer code KNOWHOW. And we thank Samsung SmartThings for their support of Know How. Hey, Brian.
Yeah.
So you want to see if we actually got 3 kilograms before the quad decided to go on vacation?
I'm very excited to see what came of this.
Okay, so this was actually the first run. Alex, let's go ahead and show them the raw footage. Hello, I'm Father Robert Ballecer, the Digital Jesuit, and this is my entry for the Hobby King Beer Lift 2015 in the 250 class. Now, this is my quadcopter right here. Oh, I'm sorry, my octacopter. I call it the Yo Dog octacopter, as in, Yo Dog, I heard you like flying, so I put a quadcopter on your quadcopter so you can fly while you fly. It's just 2 diatone 250 frames that were purchased from Hobby King. And for my beer, unfortunately I do live in a house of priests, so the beer was consumed rather quickly. So let's go ahead and measure my equivalent. You may have noticed that I have frozen it, but it is still refreshment. And I've got 3,850 grams worth of refreshment in my quad. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Happy New Year! Woohoo! And keep it up for just some measure before we start to bring it down. And Hobby King, for your consideration, that is my Yo Quad lifting up 3,850 grams. I'm Father Robert Ballecer, Padre SJ on Twitter.com. Peace. So what do you think? Okay, 3 grams.
They said it couldn't be done, and that was amazing.
We said 3 kilograms, and we actually did 3.85 kilograms.
And for a little bit longer, too.
Way longer than the 10 seconds. Yeah. Now, here was the thing. So I went to go ahead and post that on Hobby King's website, because that would have been the top.
Right.
And as I'm posting, I found out that someone had done 5,011 grams. I'm like, oh.
But for how? For sustained?
For sustained 10 seconds. So I needed to up my game a little bit.
Okay.
Now I do want to show you something. There wasn't a whole lot that I could change because I was kind of locked into the design.
Right.
This thing weighs a good 1.5 kilograms just by itself, and the batteries are taking up a lot of that. The frames, unfortunately, were taking up a lot of that. So there was very little I could change except this. These were the props that I was running on that 3,850 gram lift. These are 6 by 4 by 5, 6 by 4.5. So 6 inches by 4.5 inches of pitch. Pretty aggressive, but I didn't think I could get enough lift off of these to do a 5 kilogram lift.
Okay.
So what I had to do was I switched from these. So these are, again, these are from Ready to Fly. Yeah. I asked Paul Baxter, I said, what do you have that could increase my the draw on the
capacity
motor? And so he sent me these. These are bullnose. As you can see, these have a flat edge. They're actually much thicker on the edges than these props.
Does that add to rigidity?
Well, it adds the amount of thrust because you have more surface area being pushed through the air, so you're pushing more air down.
Okay.
This actually gave me about 10% more thrust at the same motor speed. Wow. It did draw a whole heck of a lot faster on the battery pack, I will say that.
Okay.
Because I could have flown for probably a good minute with that load with these props. But the second I went over to these, I mean, I was down to 10 seconds, 20 seconds
it
of flying time.
Sounds really mean, too. It's
really,
like
really mean.
a hive of angry bees.
And the other thing is, if you listened to that, there was like a chirping.
Yeah.
That was actually one of the ESCs starting to let go. It was not...
It wasn't happy with that much power running through it, huh?
Very not happy. So I had 4 of those frozen water bottles for the 3,085.
Now, why did you freeze them?
Oh, this was a secret. And if people start doing this in the future, I will claim that they got it from me.
Yeah.
One of the biggest problems you have is the weight sloshing.
Yeah, and I mean, you did see a little bit of that pendulum happening.
Because the flight controller keeps trying to correct, and it causes really bad oscillation. But by freezing the water, you're adding one thing that's not sloshing back and forth.
Right.
Now, what I probably should have done is I should have given it a rigid connection to the quadcopter, to the octacopter, so that the weight itself wasn't sloshing. But it really did help.
Right.
Because the first flight I ever did was with liquid water, and it was hell to try to hover. I mean, that was pretty stable. I stayed in one spot.
Yeah. That was solid. The most difficult thing it looked like was takeoff, getting it to center, and then landing. You have to go just a little off and then come down.
With this system, I probably should have used longer rope. It's hard because you have to. It's hard. It's super sensitive. A tiny bit of throttle makes the thing want to jump.
Right.
But you had to get it over the weight and then start to lift, because if you lift it off axis, what would happen was as you lifted it, it left the ground, it would swing out and pull it, and then you'd start this.
Yeah. Then it's just like a death copter.
It's a death copter. It's really unstable. But you want to see what happens when I try 5,000 grams?
Because you wanted to win. You didn't want to come into second place. You wanted to win it.
Hey, Alex, let's go ahead and show them some fails. So that is 5,057 grams. Oh, 5,058 grams. Oh, great. I'm collecting condensation. And I'm going to try to lift that with my Yo Dog. A couple of things. I should mention that I am way out of my safe limits with this. This is way more than this was designed for, but we're going to try to do it nonetheless. Take the slack out. Switch here. Whoa. All right, so that did not go according to plan. twisting. Let's try it again. Okay. And full power. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay. I think I got 10 seconds. I think I need to replace some props. This may be the second time I have to build the Yo quad. But I'll check the footage. I think I got 10 seconds of flight there. If not, it's cool. This has been a lot of fun. And who knows, maybe I can get another flight out of it. Father Robert Ballecer, and that's my Yo Dog octacopter for your consideration. Damn. So, issues?
I knew you were in trouble as soon as it went off camera.
I mean, I needed someone to follow. I couldn't keep it in frame. I mean, it was off the ground, but the weight just started doing this. And then the middle crash. What had happened was I didn't secure one of the control leads, and it came out from the frame. It got sliced. By
so
one
it was
of the
only
blades.
running on 7 motors.
It was running on 7 motors, and that happened after it was already in the air, and so it was like, I don't know what to do.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
So
thank you.
This is what happens. You have a lot of this stuff, a little shrapnel.
You probably have a lot more of those at your place, don't you?
I have a lot of those. And that last one was what did us in. So it hit hard enough that it snapped the frame off. I was going to rebuild it, but the issue I was having was I knew that I was at the limit. Like 5,050 grams is about, if I change the battery plant a little bit, maybe shave something off the frame, I probably would have been able to do 10 seconds with 5,050. But right after I filmed that, someone hit 5,500 grams. I'm like, this setup won't do it.
Yeah, because it looked like in your first successful run, you could at least get it a few feet off the ground and have it hover. That one was just like just over the ground, like maybe a foot, and it definitely was swinging around.
And I think I actually have a good. Actually, one of the other competitors suggested something for me for the next year, which is I should probably move away from 4S batteries. The issue I was having is I have enough power to take off, but then the power output would just drop, and that's why I can't sustain the flight, even though there's still power left in the pack. It just can't supply it fast enough to keep the motors turning as fast as they need to turn. So he said, go with a 6S battery. Go with a higher cell battery, a single 6S battery. I can probably regulate that power a bit better and get the amperage I need, the wattage I need to keep the craft in the air.
But can you do that with the ESCs that you're using?
No.
Yeah.
So I'll have to replace the ESCs. But by next year, it'll be all good. The other thing is, this is a monster. This is a Frankenstein squad, and most of the people in the competition.
This is an exhibit quad on quad.
They had an actual octacopter with one frame with motors bolted on the top and the bottom. I had 2 frames. Yeah, in 250 class.
I'm surprised you could get props, unless I guess they stagger them or.
No. It works like mine, except they're slightly more
extra
X-winged.
arms.
Yeah. I can probably shave half of the weight off of my craft, which would give me that 500 grams, which would give me the 5,500 gram lift. Also, I should mention that the guy who did do the proper lift, he blew up his batteries. So
wow.
Yeah,
So in the contest, do you have to land? Do you have to successfully land?
Landing
You
is
just
optional.
have to carry it.
You just have to carry it for 10 seconds. Keep it in the air for 10 seconds, you're good.
Okay, and how much was it to replace all those props then?
So every time
$20?
it hit the ground and shattered all the props, that was like $20.
Well, I like at the end of the video how optimistic you are. Like, well, maybe I'll put it back together after watching just.
Well, I mean, what else am I going to do? I like to build. This is the fun part for me. I love putting stuff together. I like to tinker. And even though I knew I wasn't going to re-enter this contest, because there's no way I'm going to hit 5,500, I was thinking.
Next year.
Yeah, I already know what I'm doing next year. I have a frame, so this weighs 1,500 grams. With the battery, I'm almost positive I can get it down to 600 grams.
Well, if you eliminate one of the frames and go with a single battery,
and I'm going to go with an aluminum pipe frame.
Pipe frame,
yeah, which will carry the weight better. And I'm also going to integrate the frame into the cargo carrying, so I don't get that the pendulum effect that pulled me out of the frame.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm designing.
Yeah, we got some time to think about this.
Yeah. Whew.
But for the amount of time that you had and the resources at your disposal, that was I was impressed.
Yeah.
Especially with that crash.
And I will say we're going to be doing more and more of these sort of specialty builds. We're moving away from sort of the just buy them off the shelf type quads, which is good to learn. But I like the specialty stuff. We have a racing quad we have to create. We've got some FPV stuff that we
That's what I really want to play around with.
Need to play with. And what we actually want to do is we're going to show you a video that I got at Interdrone for those people who are worried about crashing their quads. There has been a lot of discussion about whether or not it would be possible to add a parachute to slow the descent of your craft.
Yeah. I would like to see what people come up with that.
Yeah. But before we do that, let's go ahead and thank the second sponsor for this episode of Know How, and it's the Ring Video Doorbell. Now, if you don't know what the Ring Video Doorbell is, it means because you haven't been watching Know How. I really like this thing. This is not just a company that we advertise for. This is a company that I trust with the security of my parents. Now, this is what it is right here. This is the Ring Video Doorbell kit. Now, inside this kit, you get everything that you need to mount it. That's the tools, that's the drill bit, that's even the level to make sure that you put this thing properly. This is the Ring Video Doorbell itself. If you look at the back here, there's a small micro USB port. That gives you enough charge by charging the battery internally to run this thing for 1 entire year. Or if you've got power going to your outside doorbell, just tie this in with this little adapter plate and you'll run it indefinitely. As long as your house has power, your Ring will have power. What does it do? Well, it's a doorbell. So people ring the doorbell and it rings the doorbell inside your house. But more importantly, this connects to your Wi-Fi network and then will send a signal to your phone or to your tablet, your mobile device, to let you know that someone is at the door. The cool thing about that is it will actually let you have a conversation with the people at the front door. So it's sort of like caller ID, but for your house. Now, one of the things that really has me excited about this is the fact that it's got a lot of security built into it. So my parents, they're getting older, Brian. I'm a little worried about them sometimes.
I met them. They're very nice.
So what I have is this. This is actually the application. And as you can see, it does motion sensing. So it actually detected this guy. I don't know who this is. I don't know if my parents know who it is.
Headphones? That's a little sketchy.
It's a little sketchy. And so I'm worried. I'm like, is he casing the house? Is he looking inside to see if anybody's home? I now have video proof. And I actually have, in the previous video, I can actually see his face.
Right.
And if something happens, I know it is. Or I could tell my parents, hey, you know what, can you do me a favor?
You could say, watch out around this time. Somebody showed up to the house. Keep an eye out.
Make sure the doors are locked. Make sure the security is around.
Make sure your guard dog is alert.
Exactly. And this all gets recorded to the cloud, so it's not as if they could just rip this thing off your door and do away with the evidence. I'm connecting to a server. I'm not connecting to that Ring Video Doorbell at my parents' house. Now, this is why I think this is such a phenomenal product, because it's not just another gadget, another gizmo for your house. It's actual peace of mind. Now, right now, we want you to try the Ring Video Doorbell. We want you to try the gadget that Time Magazine named as one of the top gadgets of 2014. You can get $10 off the normal price. Just protect your home and have a peace of mind with Ring by going to ring.com/knowhow. That's ring.com/knowhow. Get $10 off because they love the Twit audience. And folks, get yourself just a little bit more peace of mind, a bit more security for the biggest investment you have. Again, that's ring.com/knowhow. And we thank the Ring Video Doorbell for its support of Know How. Hey, Brian.
Yeah? What's up?
Have you ever crashed your quadcopter?
Okay, I wasn't sure if you were gonna stop at crash. I was like, well, it depends on what you want to know. Yes, I have crashed my quadcopter more times than I care to admit. Yeah. And considering the footage that we just watched of your quad, you have crashed.
Well, that was a special case.
That was definitely a special case.
It was designed to crash.
There's something you're about to mention that I don't think would have saved your quad, but maybe other quads.
No, it wouldn't. A parachute. This has actually been bandied around in our Google Plus group for a while, that people are wondering if it's possible to equip a quadcopter with a parachute that would automatically deploy if it's detected that you were crashing. Now, for what we do right now, that's not actually that important because it's not a whole lot in the air. It's like $150. Maybe if we have a GoPro on it. But I mean, what it becomes really important is if you start mounting one of those expensive cameras, like you put a Red or a Blackmagic Micro Four Thirds.
Yeah, one of the big quadcopters that they use for movies and things like that.
I mean, if it's one thing to crash and possibly damage a $600 to $1,000 quadcopter. It's another thing to damage a $600 to $1,000 quadcopter that has a $1,000 to $6,000 camera strapped onto the bottom.
To it. And for our use case, we're flying under 50 feet or so. It's like they're not usually going to fall that far or anything.
Yeah. But if you do want to get yourself a little added protection for those high altitude foibles, I stopped by North UAV in Las Vegas at Interdrone, and they told me that yes, indeed, you can put a parachute on your quad.
Sometimes you have a bad day. That's exactly what's going to happen if you're a drone pilot. At some point, I promise you, you're going to go out of control, and your really expensive, really beautiful rig is going to smash on the rocks below, unless you stop by North UAV and you try out their Mayday and Mars. I'm here with the CEO of North UAV, Kevin O'Rourke, who's going to explain why you need a parachute. Kevin, what is this?
So this right here is the Mayday. It's a really intelligent circuit board that can detect if your drone is crashing, and if it's crashing, it'll deploy a parachute. It uses some really kind of simple machine learning techniques to, analyze what is a normal flight versus, what isn't a normal flight. And, from that, it can really very accurately predict when you're crashing. It's not like some simple turn to 90 degrees or are you falling, because that stuff doesn't work. Because we started working on this in 2013, and it's we tried a lot of algorithms.
Oh, I have seen a lot of people, myself included, try to come up with some sort of soft recovery system. The whole idea is, you're in trouble. You want to deploy something to at least minimize the impact on your investment. But there's always been a problem, which is, one, deploying cleanly. It's very difficult to deploy cleanly, especially if your craft is spinning. And the second thing is, well, do you know exactly when you're going to crash? It sounds like you've got both of those things licked. Tell me, what kind of parameters is the Mayday using? I know it uses machine learning, but is it looking at angle? Is it looking at G-forces? When does it decide to deploy the parachute?
Sure. Well, I can't tell you exactly how it, kind of determines if it's crashing, but it does use a 9DOF IMU, an altimeter, to all kind of make a prediction. Now, it is working with parachutes, so you have to actually be falling downwards for it to, really release the parachute. You could be like crashing and like spinning sideways, but if you're not going down, a parachute's not going to help you too much. So a majority of it is altitude change, but there is some of it that is angular. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the parachute. How high do you have to be for a parachute to fully deploy?
About 40 feet for all of our parachutes. Yeah, they deploy like within a second. They get them out, I think, really a rapid rate of like 30 feet per second to get them like about 5 feet away from your drone. So if it is spinning, the drone, it'll get it plenty far enough. Yeah.
All right, now let's talk. I like the Mayday, but let's talk about the Mars. What system is this? Spring-loaded, gas-loaded? How does it eject the parachute?
Well, it is a spring-loaded system that is released using just a simple servo arm on the top. Yeah.
Of course, our audience is going to want to know where they can find out more information. Where may they be able to pick one of these up? Tell me about pricing and availability.
Sure. So the Mayday is not available yet for public sale, but you can get it on Kickstarter right now. So for about $75, you can get just the board. We're doing some bundles with all the other parachutes that are huge discount for the Kickstarter, and we expect for it to go on sale in October. For all the parachutes, though, you can get those right now through dealers on marsparachutes.com.
Kevin O'Rourke, CEO of North UAV, thank you very much for talking to us. And if you fly, you need to get some Mayday.
It's interesting. Actually, there was another Altus. They made the Skytruck drone.
That's the propellers on the top, propellers under bottom.
Which, by the way, I love. We'll show that segment in a couple of weeks. But they've got a staggered X8 setup where the props on the top are larger and spin more slowly, and the props on the bottom are shorter but spin really quickly. And they say that gives you a really nice combination of performance plus endurance.
That makes sense.
I kind of like that.
Because the biggest problem we were thinking of when you were doing your project is the prop wash, like the dirty air underneath. If you have the larger props and then the smaller props underneath. And Yeah, you won't be using as much battery.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
Smart.
Well, I mean, they're talking about it's a huge drone, and they were still saying they could get 45 minutes of flight time out of it. I'm like, oh, okay, I can't get 40 seconds of flight time out of mine. Yeah.
And see, that seems like a use case for a parachute.
Yes.
Because that landing on top of something would destroy.
It would kill them.
It would kill people. It would destroy property.
That drone, well, it's a $60,000 drone, but it actually has a built-in parachute, and it's not spring-loaded. It's got a CO2 canister, so it shoots way far from the drone and arrests any sort of tilt or rotation.
Yeah.
But I mean, that makes sense. If your drone is worth $60,000,
you're gonna make an investment to save it. But
that's $500 in a parachute.
But like you're pointing out during the video was you probably would want to save the equipment that the drone is carrying. So like maybe some sort of system to protect the camera rather than like a parachute that.
I want an airbag.
Yeah, like an airbag for your camera rather than a parachute that may shoot out
the wrong way, upside down, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's why the CEO of North UAV, he was telling us how the board is important because you don't want to deploy the parachute if it's currently upside down.
They have like a Top Gun Goose situation. Goose, no!
And the other thing to mention here is, you know, a good system like this is going to cost you $300, $400. So if your quadcopter's not worth anywhere near that, probably not the best investment because it will take up space and weight on every flight.
So you're sacrificing performance and flight time.
Right. I would really only use it for a larger quadcopter that's doing some sort of mission critical stuff where you need the equipment to survive. But if you're banging around like the two of us, just doing flying FPV stuff, just crash.
Yeah, cool idea. I can definitely see it being used in more of a enterprise style drone, but I don't for my FPV quad or something. I'm not going to be using that.
Absolutely. Well, hey, you know, Brian, this has actually been this has been a lot of material.
It has been a lot of material.
Because we're actually moving. Remember, we're moving to the shorter format of know-how in anticipation of the new year. We're going to be doing some changes here. We eventually want to get these episodes around 30 minutes. So it's about 41 minutes right now. You'll notice a couple more changes as we go along. We're going to have more of these themed episodes. So, like for example, the last week we talked nothing about drones. Nope. It was all about cooling and about 3D printing. Right? Yeah. This week it's about drones. Next week it's going to be about something completely different. We want to mix up these topics. We don't know yet. We don't. We've got a lot of stuff, but we don't know what we want to pull forward. But please, 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 we want your input. If you like what we're doing in the show, if you don't like what we're doing in the show, if there's something that you want to see in the show, make sure to go to our Google Plus group. It's a fantastic place. How many members does it have, Brian?
It's over 9,000.
That's exactly right.
Which I have been waiting a long time to say.
Yeah. And now, if you just go to the Google Plus social media site and look for Know-How, join the group, and it's a great place to post pics of your projects, ask questions, answer questions if you're a builder or a tinkerer yourself. And yeah, it's a good place to be. I really enjoy my time in there.
Yeah, I would say definitely plan out having maybe an hour or more because it's kind of a rabbit hole.
For giggles. Yeah. It's going to take you off the rails. Also, don't forget that you can find all of our show notes. If you want to find out where I got the parts for this, if you want to find out how to build a Yo-Dog octacopter, you can always go to our show notes page, which is where, Brian?
That's at twit.tv/KH. All our past episodes live there, and you can subscribe to any version that you prefer. Also, if you go there, you can see all the silly screenshots that we take from each episode.
Oh, by the way, one of the universal comments we got from the last episode was, "Don't use that room with the dark background anymore." We heard you. We heard you.
That was a dark episode.
That was a dark episode. So we're trying again. We're trying new things, but we heard you don't like it. So okay, we'll try something else.
Yeah, we're polishing.
We're polishing.
That's the first time we'd ever tried using the other studio, and we had to pre-record. You know, we had logistical.
We had issues.
Yeah, we had issues.
There was not much room for directing.
There really wasn't.
Yeah, that was the real problem.
Yeah.
Yes, that was the problem.
We didn't have enough direction.
Speaking of direction, I'm going to direct you to our other social media outreach page. If you want to get a hold of us or tell us what you want to see, you can also find us on the tweeters.
That's right. You can find behind the scenes stuff. We usually post pictures and stuff. And I am at cranky_hippo.
And I am at Padre SJ. And our director, Al Grumple. Grumple?
Excuse me, Padre. That's Gumple.
Alex
He stopped
Gumple.
working here like 6 years ago, I thought.
Yeah, weird, right? Yeah, I thought he punched out. But you can find him at ANELF3. Follow us and find out what we do when we're not here at NOAA. By the way, right now, I am actually in New York for Maker Faire.
What are you talking about, Bajay? You're standing right here. I don't know what you're talking about.
It's time travel. I'm so time traveling right
now. And I must have gone to New York with you then, right? Because it's Maker Faire?
Sorry.
Apparently I didn't get to go.
No, I don't make these decisions. I just enjoy them and laugh at you when I
yeah, Excuse me, Padre. While you've been out, we should give a shout out to our lone audience member.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Our audience. This is Bryan. But with the I,
Bryan
the way it's supposed to be spelled, not with a Y, like crazy people spell their names.
That's true.
Bryan came to us. He came all the way from New Zealand.
He missed out on going to Muir Woods today to come watch us.
we thank him for being part of the NOAA. And don't forget that you can always come by the Brick House and be part of the audience, too. It's always a lot of fun. Hey, Bryan, I think that's about it, right?
I think so.
Until next time, I'm Father Robert Ballecer.
And I'm Bryan Burnett. No, I got it this time. I'm Bryan Burnett.
And now that you know how,
go crash it. Go dog on dog it. No, that's not right. I'm gonna have to cut that out. Yo dog.
Screw the whole thing.
Screw the whole thing.